And with me now is Joseph Humire. He is the executive director of the Center for a Free Society. Joseph, what do you think of this? What is your reaction?
Well, I'm surprised, I think like everybody else, but the good news is that democracy is alive in Colombia. I think you can't go on polls, you can't go on statements, you have to go at the end of the day with the counts and the votes inside the electoral booths, and that showed today. I think even the people that voted for no were surprised by the result. So I think today, moving forward, we're going to see just a process of where, back to the drawing board for the Santos government, and where are they going to take their next step.
What was it about this peace plan? Was it the fact that they were going to integrate these people back into society immediately, members of the FARC group, and give them jobs, basically, in the landmines?
Yeah, one of the biggest sticking points, I say there was two big sticking points. One was the point of impunity, which Michelle raised in her comments, was the fact that there was no real punishment for the previous crimes committed by the FARC. We're talking about more than 300,000 people killed, extortions, kidnappings. I mean, just about, I'd say everybody in Colombia has been affected by this conflict. And the second was the fact they were, these are called in Colombia the FARC salaries. There are elements of the FARC that were going to get jobs just because they're demobilizing, because they said they needed these jobs, otherwise they're going to have to resort to illicit activity. Well, while the unemployment rate is increasing in Colombia, there's people saying, well, where's my job? Why don't I get a free handout? And so I think that those 2 points really made it hard for people to accept this deal.
We're talking about a difference of 50,000 votes between yes and no. Is there anybody who was not affected by the FARC rebels? Is there a group?
It's hard to find a group that wasn't, really, because, I mean, this is a 50-year-old conflict. This is a group that had at one point had its peak of power, that looked like it was going to take control of the government of Colombia around 2000, the turn of the century. And there's a group that I think essentially represented a lot of what people perceived of Colombia, a country in conflict. But, anyone that's been to Colombia in the last, I'd say, decade or so, knows that Colombia is a really safe country. It's not the same country that's, you see war-torn all over the streets. It's largely in the rural areas in the south that you see the FARC's presence. And I think that is now, if anything, with this vote, that is, it opened people's eyes to Colombia being already a country of peace.
And Michelle mentioned the former president leading the opposition vote. Why was he against it?
Well, I mean, you think of the period between 2002 to 2012 where he governed Colombia, his main opposition was the FARC. He came to power in Colombia with a promise to say that we're not going to let the FARC take control of this country, and largely upheld that promise. At 2012, right before he stepped down from power and right before Santos started the negotiations for the peace deal, I mean, the FARC militarily was at its weakest point ever. And so it begs the question, what would have happened next if they didn't start this negotiation? Would the FARC have just surrendered militarily? So
did he think that it was too lenient?
I think so. I mean, he was very vocal. I think it's very clear to say that any kind of impunity to the FARC is an insult to all Colombians. The fact that there was no idea of how they were going to be able to face justice for all the crimes they committed in the past was something that the President Uribe was loud all over the media and pretty much all over the country in Colombia.
Juan Manuel Santos, is he calling everyone's bluff by saying there is no plan B, you have to vote for this?
I don't think so. I think he really staked a lot of political capital on this vote. I mean, even the way they approached the vote, and I think one of the mistakes that the Santos administration or the Santos government made was that they created an all-or-nothing situation. You either vote for this vote or you vote against it. If you vote against it, there is no second chance. And I think that's now biting him, is biting back, is pushing back, because now they're back to the drawing board. Now he has to figure out what is the second chance, what is the second round of this vote, and apparently I don't think he has one.
So what can we expect over the next week, Joseph?
I think you're going to expect to see, most importantly, we have to expect that the FARC will not retaliate in any kind of violent action. I think Santos led an expectation to say, if you don't vote for this agreement, if this agreement does not pass, the FARC, we're going to go back into an armed conflict. And I think it's up to the military and the Santos government to make sure that doesn't happen, and obviously up to the FARC as well, who upheld this, said that they want peace. And if they want peace, this is their time to show it.
All righty. Well, Joseph Humire, we certainly appreciate your time and your insight. We will be talking to you again, I'm sure, over the next week. Thank you so much.